fast that time.
Yeah, this one's usually slow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're back with you again, looking at more about prayer and the Bible. And we are looking at a topic today.
We are looking at a topic today. Our
An
topic,
important one.
it is an important one, especially with everything that's been going on nowadays. So the topic we're going to be looking at is peace. Just a bit of a heads up, we had a hard time finding a decent verse for this one. So let me just read it for you. First of all, then, I urge that supplications, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. This is good, and it is pleasing in the sight of God our Savior. So we kind of used most of those verses for praying for government.
Yeah, we talked about government, kings. We don't have kings, but government. Yeah.
But since we had a hard time finding a verse about praying for peace, and since it does talk about you pray for this so that you can have a peaceful and a quiet life, we decided to just use this one. Of course, with everything that's going on currently, the idea of praying for government so that we have peace is maybe not quite as
well, sometimes, like a lot of what's going on right now, that the unrest that we're having in our country is at least indirectly related to at least the views that people have toward how government is doing their job.
Yeah, that's true.
That they feel like government is being unjust, and there are injustices that government should be taking care of that they're not taking care of. And so, the connection between government and peace is often really closely tied together. Those two things are really closely tied together. So it's
one thing that I will say on the topic of peace, and we're going to get this on a couple of topics this week, is that there's what a lot of people think of as peace as like an outside, the world is at peace. There's not a lot of just turmoil happening in the country or in the world as a whole. And, we can relax. Everything's at peace. But then we also have the peace that is often referred to as kind of an inner peace, where it's just no matter what happens, I have faith and trust in God, and so I can be at peace, I can feel relaxed and know that everything is going to be okay because of that faith. And we kind of need to pray for both of those types of peace.
And sometimes, of course, the most important, obviously, is our peace with God.
Yes.
I mean, because ultimately that's going to determine, if we're not at peace with God, then we're going to be cast away from Him for eternity. So our relationship with God is the single most important. But then also peace with our fellow man. Hebrews talks about how we need to be, as a people, as Christians, people who seek peace, who pursue it even. Some translations translate that word as pursue peace. And so that's something that certainly we want. We want to have peace. We want to look for peace in every area of our life. But obviously, there's a lot out there that we can't control.
Yeah.
And so I'm unable to fully control whether I'm at peace or whether there is peace around me. And yet I can still have that inner peace you talked about, and I can still have peace with God. And the Bible also says, as much as lies within you, live at peace with all men.
Yes.
And so we have to be people of peace first and foremost, so that other people can live at peace with us. And then we have to work to try to spread that way of living and that way of having peace. And of course, again, ultimately, all peace ultimately is going to come from God.
Yeah.
I think about, too, when we think about this and think about peace, I think about something that was Actually, an old quote from an old movie. Oddly enough, me quoting an old movie. But
Was it from the Roaring Twenties?
no, these are the Roaring
Your
Twenties.
childhood.
These are the Roaring Twenties. We're in the
Okay.
the Roaring
No,
Twenties are
These
your,
are the dying 20s. Okay.
all right. No, I don't even know when the movie came out. It wasn't that old.
Okay.
I mean,
What's the quote?
but from Air Force One, and Harrison Ford's the president in that movie, and he's giving a speech, and his speech is about justice, but not and peace, and the connection between those two. We're going to look at justice later on as well in another one. But he said, peace is not just the absence of conflict, but the presence of justice. And sometimes I don't think we think too much about those two being connected. But peace, yes, we can, I mean, there can be no fighting, but there may still not be peace. It can be an uneasy tension, a Cold War. You know, we never went to war against Russia, but it was not peace.
No.
And so it's not just the absence of war, the absence of that actual guns blazing conflict or fists punching or whatever. That's not what makes, but the presence of just that things are just, that things are done in the right way. And so I don't know how much they intended that or whatever. And like I said, that was a long time ago. But that quote has stuck with me. That peace has to be more than just stopping the fighting. And I found that with kids. I'm big enough. No fat jokes. I know you were thinking it. I'm big enough that I can stop my kids from fighting with each other. I can hold one over here and one over here, especially the littler ones. You're a little tougher because you're so squirmy.
Yeah.
But I can hold the little kid. I can hold one over here and one over there, and I can just hold them apart. I can physically stop them from fighting with each other. That doesn't mean I've got them to be at peace with each other.
Nope.
And so when we're thinking about peace, what we're really asking God to do is change people's hearts and minds to affect change so that we really do have actual peace.
And that is something that he can use other people to do, but ultimately that is something that only he can really do.
Yeah. And of course he uses us as examples. As his children, we're supposed to be peacemakers. Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers." So that's good. And that's where, we haven't talked about this a lot. But when it comes to God answering prayer, we've talked about it a little bit, but we haven't dealt with this a whole lot. When it comes to God answering prayer, we play a role in that a lot of times.
Yes.
We play a big part in him. So if I'm asking God for peace, and then I'm going out punching everybody that I see in the nose, I'm not going to have peace like that.
Good times.
I remember you watching Bongo the Bear or whatever, and when he liked somebody, he punched him on the head. And so you punched your friend on the head. But he's my friend. I was showing him I like him. He's a good friend. Yeah.
I only vaguely remember this.
That doesn't work too well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, peace. Jeremiah, we're not going to deal with this in depth because we will when we get to Jeremiah's prayers.
Oh, I didn't even see that was
You
there.
didn't even
Wow.
see that I put that there.
You
but
went
I
big
snuck
notes.
it. Yeah, well, big notes. But he talks about this. As he's praying to God, he asks, "Have you utterly rejected Judah?" Now, this was, of course, Jeremiah was prophesying how Judah was going to be taken into captivity. Bad things were coming for them. Does your soul loathe Zion? Why have you struck us down so that there's no healing for us? We looked for peace, but no good came. We looked for a time of healing, but behold, terror. So he recognized that we were looking for peace.
And one of the one of my favorite books in the Bible is Lamentations. And one of the reasons that I love it so much is because if you read the book, it's
You just
Jeremiah.
love it because it's poetry.
Anyway, if you read the book, it's Jeremiah talking about how terrible things are in Judah and Israel and
The
how
pain and the suffering.
and the pain and the suffering and
Well, I mean, the title says it all.
well, yeah, Lamentations. It's
It's
him lamenting all of the bad things that are happening.
Right.
And once you get to chapter 3, you've made it through 2 chapters of all this terrible stuff happening, and it's still going. And Jeremiah sets up this long list of all of these horrible things that God has done, he says specifically to him, by attacking Judah. And it's, you've readied your bow and you've pierced my kidneys with your war arrows.
That sounds
And just all of these painful, terrible things. You've buried me in a dark room and turned away from me. And it's just like, wow, God has seriously abandoned these people. And then halfway through chapter 3, Jeremiah says, and yet my hope is in the Lord, because his mercy endures and forever, and his is made new every morning. And it's just like, how
the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases,
exactly,
in spite of the fact that he's stabbing you in the kidneys with arrows.
You're going through all of this, and you're like, God is still good. I am at peace. And it's terrible, and I'm talking about how terrible it is, but it's okay. I'm like, how do you do that? That's real peace right there.
Yeah. And that's what we have to strive for. That's what we need.
If you ever are like, man, things are terrible in my life right now, go read Lamentations, and when you get to chapter 3, just, I don't know, like, get some of Jeremiah's spirit, I guess, and just be like, yes, I need some of that peace.
And that's him here too. I mean, you've struck us down. You hate Judah. You've rejected Judah. You hate Zion, which is Jerusalem, his chosen city. There's no healing for us, We wanted peace, but you didn't give us anything good.
It's like we were trying to get the good stuff, and you were like, nope, not going to happen. Y'all can go die now.
Yeah.
So, in this current time with everything that's going on.
It's interesting there because at the end of that, we didn't read that far down, but at the end of verse 22, he says, "Are you not he, O Lord our God? We set our hope on you, for you do all these things that," and he's talked about how the false gods can't bring rain or anything like that. He's like, we trust in you for all these things. So even during the hard times, we need to look to the Lord and trust him.
Yes. And this is certainly a hard time for a lot of people.
Yeah. There's a lot of tumultuous things happening right now.
And so as Christians, as people who have the power to grab God's ear, let's make sure that we're talking to him and asking him for the things that we need, the things that non-Christians need, and we're going to talk a bit more.
Things that our nation as a whole needs.
We're going to talk a little bit more about this later, but things like salvation, and so that people have not only peace right now with everything that's going on, but true peace for later. So I think that's everything.
Inner peace,
peace
with others, and peace with God. Those 3 things. So a 3-pronged. Is it okay to use the word attack when we're talking about peace?
A 3-pronged, nonviolent solution to your problems.
Yeah. But let's be praying for peace for everyone. And we know right now there's a lot of struggling going on, that there needs to be some peace. Peaceful, things like peaceful protesting could be a good thing in our country.
Yes.
But let's pray that it remains peaceful, and that those that are turning things violent will see the light. That they'll recognize that that's not the way, but that the way of peace that's the path that will lead to victory.
So hope you come back tomorrow, and I hope this helped you out in some way, and we'll see you then.
See you next time.